is Tuesday night, and it is time for EOP Live. I'm Freddie Burns.
And I'm Big Al.
And it's a special 8:11. We're a little late. It was supposed to be 8 p.m., but my wife didn't get home in time, so it's 8:11 p.m. start. I'm sure you guys didn't want an annoying kid in the background, but we have an exciting show for everyone tonight. We are going to jump into Troel Embiid, as his Twitter says. Is he trolling us? Was he serious? Is there foreshadowing? Is he playing a little damage control? We'll find out. Daryl Morey did an interview today on 97.5, The Fanatic, and basically confirmed that the Harden Morey divorce is just about finalized. We will talk about the Phillies Brewers. Big series for the Phillies. They're playing now. I believe they're up 3-0. We'll get into the wild card standings, where we're at there. And guess what? Guess what? We are freaking 1 week away from Eagles training camp. Go Birds. Fly Eagles Fly is 1 week away. Rookies report in 1 week. But before we get to any of that, I just want to thank our amazing sponsors here on Edge of Philly Sports. The Cherry Law Firm, Sherry's Tickets, Dolan's, and Philly Sports Trips. Thank you so much for your sponsorships. We appreciate it. Go check them out, and we will be getting into each one of them individually as the show goes on. So let's kick this off with Joel Embiid, who, well, let's go back. We're going to go back to July. We're going to go into these tweets because it didn't just start from the video. It didn't just start from these tweets on the 17th yesterday. It started in the middle of free agency when Mr. Embiid dropped this tweet in the middle. Get ready for Harden fat suits. Very, very, very possible, Joe Sullivan. Very possible. But let's jump into the first tweet. And Joel Embiid, through the middle of free agency, tweets out, as you can see, the Watcher. As the Sixers did absolutely nothing in free agency, and they couldn't. They were capped strong. There's no way for them to really make any moves. He tweets out the Watcher, which gets people, asking some questions. When that tweet comes out, Al, what are you thinking? Not same old Joel, no big deal, or is he taking a shot?
I don't know, man. I've said in the past numerous times that I was fearful of this watch and see mentality that the Sixers were kind of going into the season with. Like, this is kind of a bridge year, a gap year, or whatever term they want to use. And just run it back with what they have, see what they can do, maybe add a couple smaller pieces here or there, maybe strike some gold with some young guys, which I know you and Dibes and the rest of the party on Broad Crew has talked about. I think listen, he can sit there and say they're jokes and jabs and all that stuff, but there's got to be a little truth inside these jabs. Like, you can just feel it. He's not that kind of guy. He does these things all the time. We see him take shots at people when they lose in the championship. You saw him take shots at Ben Simmons at times. You saw him take shots at his other teammates, even James Harden at times, at his coach at times. And, just joking. I got to play better too, but these guys have to do better. So, no, I think there's some there. He's
I'm
annoyed.
Specifically talking about that tweet. We're going to get into the other ones.
Yeah.
The Watcher tweet. So
I think he's annoyed. He's annoyed.
Okay, so that I thought, same old him, just playing stupid games. The Watcher, as if like he expects something to happen here. Maybe Lillard, but come on. So then we get to the whole Harden rumors. All that stuff's going on. He comes out a few weeks ago, says, hey, I love James. The friendship's great. I hope he comes back, but if he doesn't come back, all good. But I would love him back, which is fine. Totally fine with that. Then doing an interview, I believe it was this weekend, and I apologize. I forget the company that did the interview, and we're using Barstool as the tweet to take the quote. But the quote that everyone knows, in the middle of the interview, they ask him about a championship, and he says, I just want to win a championship. Whatever it takes. I don't know where that's going to be. He drops this bomb, whether it's in Philly or anywhere else. I just want to have a chance to accomplish that. At which point, when that drops on Monday morning, people start going crazy. All morning tweets going everywhere. And then he pulls this tweet in response to that, kind of. Or it could be due to a soccer game. So this is him definitely being a troll. We're in this together. 5 days. And everyone's like, what the hell is he talking about? What is he talking about? What's in 5 days? What's going on? So everyone starts hammering Joel Embiid with tweets. He comes back with this following one. Catch-all Otherbin at high strangest 3 says, I'd like to win a championship in Philly or somewhere else. Then somewhere else was unnecessary, to be honest. TBH. He goes, buddy, check my middle name in response to that tweet, which has always been, or at least lately, Troel, being I'm trolling you.
Mm-hmm.
Then we move to 11:58 a.m., and he goes, I've lost my place as best troll here, though. It went to Daryl Morey, responding to the recent tweets Daryl Morey's been putting out, which we'll get into as well a little later, that he's been an awful jokester around this very mundane free agency, coming off another second-round loss. Finally, the final tweet we get from Embiid, Prez says, you need to tweet more like you did back in the day, and he says Father Time is undefeated, as if he's out of that game. He's not going to be as good as he once was, but again, joking. So, Al, I ask you this. Did he make those comments in the interview? I can't see how that was a trolling thing. Do you think these tweets came out to troll, or he was like, oh my God, I should not have said that out loud. I got to do some damage control here and make a joke out of it?
I think it's shots fired in the sense like, you guys better be on alert. This whole thing, I'm seeing this whole thing going on with James Harden. I better be involved. I better be, this better not be, we're not trying to win this year. Like, I think that's what he's saying. And I've said it before, like, I think this could be his last year if everything goes wrong or doesn't go right or whatever you want to call it. But I think it was what he was doing. And I think he hides behind the name Troel. I think he uses that as, guys, it's me. I'm just kidding. You know how I am. Don't worry about it. I'm just messing with you guys. I think he uses that almost as a shield to say, I can say whatever I want. And like, haha, just kidding. Like, my kids do that. That's what my kids do. Like, they take a shot at me. I'm like, excuse me, Dad, I was just joking. It was a joke. I was kidding. It's not real. Like, that's what my kids do. So I'm not mad at Joel for saying the statements, but pick a lane and stay in it. That's how I look at it. Just pick a lane and stay in it. Be either, because like, look at Bryce Harper. Take Bryce Harper, for instance. He's very vocal when he wants something. We saw it with JT Realmuto when he would cross the plate and do the signing thing after JT hit a home run or something. Like, that's my thing. Like, at least what Bryce Harper's stance is. You know what his stance is. Joel does this like little, I'm going to take a shot, but then I'm going to pull back and say, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, guys. Don't worry about it. No big deal.
Daniel Berry Sports Highlights checking in. Yo, thanks for listening. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Joe Sullivan coming in. Can't have this turn into a Strahan gap year. He fixed the gap. He fixed it. There's actually a commercial out with another, but I'm not going to go down that road. Walter Tryman, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, checking in. Harden won't try hard if he plays. Here's the thing, Walter, and we're going to get into a divorce with Morey after this segment, but he kind of has to try, though, because he's in a contract year. No one's interested in him, so he's kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place if they don't trade him. Joe, I've been saying the exact same thing. I'm tired of this whole team. Wake up when you actually beat Boston or make the ECF. Blah, 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 blah. If he catches the year, he'll blame the fans, team, and he has out next year. All right, so I've been an avid Joel Embiid defender. I do think he's like trolling as far as the tweets goes because he just gets a kick out of it. But what I think is the problem here is he's still not taking accountability, and he's almost saying whether it's here or not here, instead of saying, hey, maybe with 5 minutes to go in a game where we're getting ready to lose, maybe I should demand the ball and not wait for James Harden to pass it to me or wait for a play to be called for me, which Doc supposedly says we're called. Like, maybe like Kobe or Jordan or LeBron or any other star would say, yo, get me the damn ball. Get me the ball. I don't care. Get me the damn ball. And that's what we want out of him. And if he misses, he misses. I read a stat. He's like 14 for I don't know, 42 or something in situations in the playoffs, which isn't a great average down the stretch. But regardless, it shows me he wants it. So it's concerning that he's still talking about stuff like that. He hinted at it with the Jimmy Butler stuff a few years ago, and he may very well be joking. And Morey confirmed today that like he's all in. They had a huge meeting with him after it to make sure. But I'm just kind of sick of it. Why are we even talking about somewhere else? Like the focus should be here, and how do I get better here? Nick Nurse is here, my new coach. It is tiring, as Joe's saying. It's like, come on, man. At some point, you got to realize you've lost all these series too. You've been a part of this. And though I agree with him, the organization has basically been malpractice as the way they've handled it. Like, you don't just bring in a new player every year. You have to develop a team and get wings and role players and make it like just getting a new star every year and a half is not the way to do it. Though I think everyone like gets excited for that. The closest we had to that team was the Jimmy Butler team, and that was only a half a season. And then if you want to go, probably the second best team was the Bellinelli squad, where it was all role players, him and Bellinelli, Ersan, and Reddick. So, but at some point, just take full accountability. Even if you think it's someone else's fault, you put it on you because you're the leader of the team.
Are you seeing a Carson Wentz-esque situation with him a little bit? Not to the extreme of Carson Wentz, but a guy that has talent and the ability but doesn't take onus on their faults and try to work on their faults, because that's where I'm getting annoyed. I love Joel, and I think Joel's great, and I think you don't get rid of Joel. I mean, unless it's a complete king's ransom and you're ready to pull the trigger and move in that direction and your understanding of that. But like, that's my problem with the situation. I don't care what he says, but you know what? I brought up Bryce Harper. We bring up the winners, the people who have that winning mentality in the city. You don't get this from him. It's just too much. It's constant. It's just as predictable as a second round out for the Sixers is. It's predictable as the Joel Embiid going to blame somebody else, act immature, pout. Nothing. Like, I don't see support for the team. I see the me, Joel Embiid, not the Philadelphia 76ers and winning a championship for the city of Philadelphia. Like, that's where I'm starting to get annoyed. And that's where the difference between a winner and a loser is. And there's plenty of guys we've seen come through this town who had winner mentalities, who could win, who maybe weren't the best at what they do. But Joel is literally the best at what he does. Yet every time there's always a problem. If it's not Harden, if it wasn't Ben Simmons, if it wasn't for them putting the right people around him, and do it, Daryl Morey, take some heed. Look at Twitter and Sixers executives in the past. Stop tweeting.
I mean, none of the other executives ever tweeted, except burner accounts, Harden, Colangelo. But like he's up front. I kind of like that he tweets. He's out in the open. But as far as like Walter checking in again, Joel showed he could play more games. He wanted the MVP, got that. Now it's time to be like Joker, get the title right the first time, Trey, man. So here's where I don't know where you're bringing in the Wentz here, because we do forget that Joel Embiid played on a torn meniscus. Like, he has gutted it through. He just won the MVP, as Walter said. Like, it's not like he hasn't progressed every single year on the floor. His adjustments to the double teams. You said work hard. You said a bunch of stuff. Like he does work hard. He does work his butt off. He is dedicated. He doesn't do the Shirley Temple thing. Like, all that out of shape stuff's been gone. Like, he doesn't party. He doesn't do any of that stuff. You know what I mean? So the only where I'll agree with you is the immaturity stuff and the always the slip up to say something like that. The Harden comments after the game about him and Harden were taken out of context. He was making it more of a team thing. And he was right. Like, there are open shooters that miss shots in that game 6. But I think just us as fans would like him to see him go to the rack, get fouled, miss the shot. Knowing us, though, then they would call him a choker, that he can't make the shot either. But at least I would feel better defending him if he at least took those shots down the stretch and didn't blame others.
Yeah.
But that's enough with Embiid. Daryl Morey had an interview today on 97.5, and he kind of got into the marriage between him and Morey. But before we get into the marriage, let's get into the law and criminal law from David R. Cherry, Esquire. He won't handle your divorce, but he'll handle workers' compensation, motor vehicle accidents, personal injury, and criminal law. Call David R. Cherry, Esquire now, 610-565-0300. Go to www.cherryinjurylaw.com. So let's jump into Mr. Morey. Let me get this nice, beautiful photo of him and James. It was a honeymoon, back together again. Everything was good just a year and a half ago. And then today he goes on 97.5 and all but confirms. Not all but he took everything head on and confirmed the trades that Embiid that Harden wants to be traded. He said he's not trading them for anything less than what he thinks is value. And he took everything head on, I would say. He really answered all the questions that Gargano gave him. He said the roster's a work in progress. He had a lot of praise for Pat Beverly, freeing up the cap space and all that. The one telling comment and quote that I took from this, though, which kind of tells you, it's kind of what I've been saying for a good amount of this offseason about running it back. He says, but all the depth we lost, if we had done something to bring them back, it would have hurt our ability to compete down the road. That's in reference to all the free agents we've lost. So what we're attempting to do is have the best team possible this year, but also have the ability that if we get into next season situation to be a very unique team with the most cap room of a team that's as good as us. That's a very unique situation to have, right? So the new CBA really kicks in next year. The new CBA next year is going to put massive constraints downward on salaries in the league. So us being the only team with a top player that can join is going to put us in a very unique situation. So I wouldn't call it a 2-year plan. It's just more we're trying to win this season coming up, but we have to keep an eye on how we're going to compete moving forward as well. Al, what does that tell you?
Tells me exactly what he says. This, in a nice way, he's saying this is a gap year, but we're going to still try to compete. But we're not going to just buckle in. There's going to be no big swings. There's going to be, forget Dame time. Forget any big moves unless somebody's willing to take James Harden for him. You know, that's the only way you're going to get a big splash. If James Harden leaves and somebody's willing to pay what Daryl Morey feels is enough. And I wrote an article just last week saying Daryl Morey has been notorious, and it shows that he overvalues his guys. Obviously, by the tell that James Harden signed back in. If James Harden got an offer somewhere else, there would be no opting back into this contract. He would have been gone. He would have been doing his 3-4 years out in Houston or wherever, you know, he was alluding to. So, I mean, he pretty much says what we know is happening. It's just he kind of said it out loud almost directly. It was like a little more indirect when he says, you know, we're going to still compete, but we're not going to hamstring ourselves for next year, which I agree with that. That's the smartest thing Daryl Morey ever said.
Whoa! You agree with that? You and Joe, week after week, disagreed with me on that, and now you agree with it?
Well, listen, I never agreed to saying, like, I'm not pushing all my chips in.
No, you can't do that. You can't run it back. You can't do that.
No, I said, listen, you can't
play for next year. You can't do a gap year.
No, I said doing a gap year may cost us Joel Embiid. That's what I said. I'm not saying you can't do it, but if you do it, you have to choose that. You have to pick a path. That's the thing here. You got to pick a path. Joel, and you guys take Tyrese and build around him or whatever it is you're going to do, or you pick a path, but knowing that you're most likely going to upset your big man. And don't think that these comments that we saw weren't him showing him not being happy. That's where I think this is all leading from. That he sat there and said, listen, we're not going to hamstring ourselves, and we're not going to do it. And I'm surprised that he said that. I'll be honest with you. We all thought that the love connection between Daryl Morey and James Harden was going to be the death of the Sixers and the process, because he was going to go out there and sign him way more, just like the whole thing with Tobias Harris. Like, because they lost Jimmy Buckets and they had no other choice, they got bent over a barrel, and then they overspent on Tobias Harris more than anybody else was going to do. And we were all going to afraid that the same thing was going to happen with James Harden. I give Daryl Morey some credit because I did not think he had the cojones to do so. I really
thought
you
wasn't going to do it too. I told you both that. There's no
I'm not
way.
saying you're. I'm not saying
no way
I'm
he's getting paid anywhere near that money, and he didn't. He's got.
But you can't tell me if it happened, you would be shocked. If it happened,
I wouldn't be shocked, but
So that means there's a possibility.
I would be closer to shocked than I would be expecting. I expected it not to happen. Like, if he would have got a $50 million 4-year max contract, I would have been shocked. But if he would have got like a 2-year multi-year deal, maybe 45 with a 3-year player option or a team option, I would have been cool with that, probably even depending on the money. But Morey goes on to say, I think James is a little bit hard to play with at times. I think Joel is a bit hard to play with at times. Both of these guys are such dominant forces that they can be challenging for guys to play off of. Morey goes on to say a wing that can play on and off ball is an ideal pairing for Joel Embiid. And thank you, Sean Barnard of Pick Swap Media and Fox Sports The Gambler, friend of the show, Party on Broad and Edge of Philly Sports. Compliments of his tweets. Go follow him at Sean_Barnard1. But another comment where he kind of takes a little shot at James while explaining Joel's hard to play with as well. The James Harden marriage is officially over. He also said he's not going to trade him for nothing. And then by also saying a wing that can play off ball and on ball, that kind of leads you to one guy. If Harden wants to go to the Clippers, the one guy that the Sixers would get from the Clippers would be Terrence Mann. And they would want picks as well. So I think that's where the standoff lies. Do you think that Harden will be traded before this season starts?
It's a tough call, man. I really don't know. I mean, it's really hard for me to say that because, I mean, this is a team right now that had brought themselves to a playoffs and, won a lot of games, was able to do well. So I think Daryl Morey has this thought process. Like, no matter what, this is a win-win situation. He's just going to get what he wants, get who he wants, I should say, maybe in this case. And James gets what he wants, or he's going to still get what he wants and James is going to play. Cause like you said, if James wants a contract, he already opted in. He's got to play for it. This money is spent. The money's spent. So either you're going to get something else for it that you want, or James is going to have to nut up and shut up and play. Because like you said, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, he can't fat suit it. We can make the jokes that he can, but if he fat suits it, he has just shot the rest of his career and getting a nice contract again right in the foot.
And he says, we kind of what you're saying, James, he's either going to play or he's not. We know we need more talent, whether that's James returning or what we turn James into, meaning what they get back in the trade, says that if there is not a deal on the table that puts the Sixers in a better position, they simply won't do it. Emphasize judging the roster as a finished product, not now. So, him and Nick Nurse have talked about this is not the final roster, which leads me to think he will be traded or he will be on the roster in another capacity, because he also talked about different roles that he would play if James was here as well. And you saw that leaked board showing James Harden at the 3 on the off ball. Now, he put a ton of work in catch and shoot threes, and he actually had some success with it last year. So I'm curious how that would pan out. James Harden is useless to the Sixers. It depends what James Harden you're getting. Fat Harden's useless to the Sixers, but he did run point guard, and we've never seen point guard ran the way it was with him as a Philadelphia 76er. I mean, as much as I love Ben Simmons was the threat of the shot stopped his ability to make plays as a passer. A lot of his assists were driving the lane, dishing the three, but Harden would find people underneath. He's one of the only people that was able to get the ball to Embiid in the high post or the low post. So as much as we're mad at Harden and he's not worth the money, he did play the position of point guard well. We just have those games where he's just a total shell of himself, and it's hard to swallow. I do think come training camp, if they're not able to trade him, he's already proven that he'll sit there and hold out just like he did with Ben Simmons. Morey will hold out. The difference with Ben Simmons is he had a ton of guaranteed money that he could just sit on and try to get. Harden is going to be a free agent. And if he wants to get paid another contract with another team of anywhere worth money long term, he's going to have to come back and play at a high level. James or Anthony Yates popping in one more. James Harden should be thanking Morey for trading him. Was in Brooklyn because he was unhappy there, and now it's the same position in Brooklyn. Was in with Harden now. Agreed. Rufus Rogers checking in. I think Morey is in his own way trying to say Joel won't win and don't blame me. He is hard to play with. He also commented on Joel's tweets as well, saying, that's Joel. He had a lot of fun yesterday, and they did actually have a meeting between him and Morey and the Sixers brass to make sure he's good. And apparently Joel said, yeah, I'm good. I'm a Sixer. I'm all good. I don't want to be traded. So we shall see. Anyone watching, please share this out. Hit that subscribe button, that like button. All the support. We welcome it. Keep your comments coming in. We'll keep putting them on the screen and commenting on them. And if you want to go to a game, we got the spot for you. And that spot is Sherry'sTickets.com. Sherry's Ticket Town is great prices, no hidden fees. It's a family-owned and operated since 1946. It's got sports, concerts, theaters. Again, no hidden fees. The price you see is the price you get. Save 10% with the promo code
EOP10.
Go to Sherry'sTickets.com today. So, let's move forward. Out. It's about 8:40. We got the attacking third coming up, that Union at 9 o'clock, so we got to keep it moving. We are going to jump ship into your Philadelphia Phillies, and the Phillies are playing right now. I don't have the game on. Do you have a score for me, Al?
Yep. They're up 4-2 right now, and they're in the seventh inning, top of the seventh right now. So, Phillies are still playing some good baseball against a team that's well known for their pitching. So the fact that they're up 4-2 right now is huge. And it's the bottom of the seventh, not the top of the seventh. The bottom of the seventh. I keep forgetting they're home today. So yeah.
And Anthony just won last time. I agree. But for him, if he plays and plays well, then he will get a contract. That's my point. I don't think he can just sit and be fat Harden. He can't. He has no choice. Yeah. He can't sit out.
The only thing I would be worried about is him being like, you want a guy who wants to play, and I think he might seem a little out of it maybe the first couple games, week 10 games, whatever, but I think once they start winning and they forget, they'll move forward.
And he's still friends with everyone is another point with that as well. But so let's get into the Phillies here. The NL Central leading Brewers 52-42 visit the Phillies, who are 51-42, half game back of the wild card. I feel like a month ago we were jumping off the deep end with this team, and now look at the standings. Look at the standings. You got Atlanta leading. This is the wild card standings, by the way, and the division leaders are at the top. Atlanta's 61-31. The Dodgers 54-39. The Milwaukee Brewers, who we are playing, are actually the leaders of the Central right now, are 52-42. So this is a big series, because if we sweep them, let's say, or take 2 out of 3. That might bop that down into the wild card. We trail Miami and Arizona by a half game, and then those San Francisco Giants with Gabe Kapler were one back of them as well for that first wild card position. And then you got the Cincinnati Reds on our heels by 2.5 games, but after that, it's the Padres, the Cubs, the Mets, all 8+ games back, which is doable. Actually, those teams could make a move. It is a long season, but we're past the midway point. We're through the All-Star game. What do you feel about the Phillies' chances here? Are you getting excited? Are we getting playoff mode here? or are we like, hey, this team is due for another losing streak?
No, I mean, I don't know about playoff mode, but I mean, the team is feeling hot and feeling themselves. I mean, it was a little downing coming out of the going into the All-Star break, losing another series to a divisional player, because right now our divisional record's not great. So people are, it did suck a little bit coming into it, but the fact that the Marlins, after they beat us, have been losing, which is a good thing, and that's what we need them to do, and that's why it's only a half game difference as of the beginning of tonight. That Central Division is up for grabs. It's very tight in the Central Division. You're going to see a lot of parity, a lot of that, the guys moving up and down from division leader to wild card spot. But I think ultimately in the final, there will be no NL Central guys except for the division leader in the playoffs at the end of it. Unless, and I kind of said this, I'm not saying like I'm predicting it, it's still too early, small sample size, but Miami Marlins, if everybody's been watching them, they've been winning good. They have some good pitching. They have some timely defense. Like, they're very good at lining up their defense. We saw that when we were in Miami. Guys were just in the right place at the right time. But the problem is they're only winning games by one run, and that is not sustainable. Okay, so and they're seeing that now, and it's just, well, they have, seriously.
The Marlins.
The Marlins, yes. They are only winning. They have more one-run games than any other team, I think, in Major League Baseball right now. So my point to that is that's hard to sustain, especially going into the second.
Let me get this right. So if the Marlins won by 2, now they're legit, but because they won by 1, they're not.
Well, it's because they have so many ones where the game was so close. Yeah, sooner or later your luck's going to run out on that. Like, you have to be able to put up games where you're winning by more than one run. Yeah.
Maybe they're just clutch. I don't know.
Maybe we'll find out. But my thing is, I want to see, like I said, we're seeing that a little bit now. Miami has dropped off. San Fran, here's one that dropped off beginning, but now they're on a 6-game winning streak. And that's why we're right there with us. They were behind. They fell apart. And that's San Fran. They've always been like that. They always seem to be good during the regular season, do enough, but barely, and they just fall off at the end. Or if they make it in the playoffs, they do absolutely nothing. So I'm not even worried about them. It's just the Phillies have to continue to play the ball that they know they can play, and they have to play. They got to see what they have. I mean, still tonight, no Harper at first, which is, I don't know how you feel about that. I'm kind of on the fence. I guess that's like wait and find out. I don't know how that's going to play out. Yeah, but it's what can be done and what can be moved to make things happen, because right now the clogged DH is kind of hurting the Phillies, especially with Kyle Schwarber out in left field from a defensive standpoint.
Anthony, and injuries. Checking in again. I saw the Iron Pigs play, and how is Cody Clemens, not with the big club, is so good of a player. Cody Clemens was really good for a stretch, probably like a 15-game stretch. And then he stunk. Like stunk. But I will say, Anthony, to your point, Derek Hall stinks. He can't field or hit. He's only a power hitter, and what's he have, 1 home run since he's come up? He's been up a week. Yeah. I guess I can't hit him too much for a week. He's got to get some time to get going. But I actually agree with you. I would bring Clemens up, see what more he's got. I guess when you have Hall in the lineup, especially maybe at least for a 2-week stretch, there's the threat of the power, so maybe pitchers have to adjust the way they're pitching just in case. But if he continues to strike out the way he's striking out, I could see them putting him down and moving Clemens back up. Or obviously, Clemens played first and third. You're going to have Bohm. You're right, they did move him over to third, but you get my point. Bohm's back at third. Now Hall's at first.
I think what we're seeing is that neither
third baseman, not first, but he did play first base as well. It's not like he didn't play first base at all when he was up.
Yeah. And what we're seeing is that the answer to this is neither one of them are the answer. Cody Clemens and Derek Hall are not the answer. And Derek Hall's no youngster either. So, like, it's kind of also like he's kind of like, I won't be, if he's not that good, there's a slim chance he's going to be with the club next year. But Cody's not the answer. Derek Hall's not the answer. But if they're both not hitting, Cody's better than Derek from a defensive standpoint, because we've seen that. We've seen Cody Clemens play some make some big defensive plays. Maybe having a dad like the Rocket makes him a little bit more appealing too. But ultimately, neither one of them the answer. And this is why we're going to see Bryce Harper possibly at first, playing first base, because they want to have a guy who they can trust at the plate and not be a gigantic defensive liability at first base and not clog up the DH. Because that's the other thing is, like, we really need, if you want Schwarber to stay in here and not have to play left field, you can move Castellanos to left field. You can put, Pache wasn't injured, but you can have you have some speed out there. So there's a lot of different possibilities. And if you're going to bring a player in, it's going to be a outfielder, most likely not a first baseman.
So, as you said, Bryce Harper inches closer to first base. Topper had said it was going to be this series. He wasn't sure which game. And now they're saying the debut at first base is delayed maybe till the weekend because he was unable to do pregame workout at first over the weekend due to the day-night doubleheader and rain. Find it hard to believe that like one pregame workout's going to like stop that, but I guess we may see him there tomorrow night or Wednesday afternoon. Or no, what would it be? Thursday afternoon. I apologize. Wednesday night or Thursday afternoon. We'll see, but that may be the answer at first. The trade deadline is coming up. Al, you have a couple guys that you have in mind that maybe would be the answer. Who should the Phillies be looking for here at the trade deadline?
Well, a lot of people have been talking about getting a fifth pitcher, and that's not going to help. Just throwing that out there. Getting a fifth pitcher does not help. It may help now a little bit into the September, but once you hit the playoffs, a fifth pitcher is useless to you unless you're just going to move him to the bullpen. So you need a pitcher who's going to be able to come in and be in the 3 or 4 spot. That's what or higher. That's what you need. So looking at possibilities, there's a lot of names out there, but a couple possibilities that have kind of been floating around, especially with who had connections to either Dombrowski or the organization in the past. One of them is, and you got to look at the teams they're playing for. The Cardinals. Cardinals are in last place in Central Division. I told you that Central Division is not that great. It's, they're pretty much almost out of it already. So they have a good left-handed starting pitcher.
They already said that they're sellers. They've announced they're sellers.
So they already have a left-handed starting pitcher in Jordan Montgomery. He's a 30-year-old guy, so he's not super old. If you can get him for another couple of years, that's a plus. In 18 starts, he's a 6-7 record on a bad team with a 3.23 ERA. That's a big thing on that team. You can look at records with pitchers and kind of get lost in the sauce there, but a 3.23 ERA on a bad team, on a not a good team, that's a plus. He's one of the shining spots on that Cardinals team right now. So, between, Aaron, Nola, and him, and Wheeler maybe not having a ton of consistency, maybe having him at 3, because think about this now. You have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 punch. So say Ranger, we just push Ranger to 5, and I'm going to tell you this in a second. You're probably like, why Ranger at 5? What did Ranger do? He moved to at one point into the bullpen during the playoffs run. So you have a guy who could be your long playoff guy. So if you do run into a problem and you have a punch of Aaron Nola, Wheeler, and they end up playing really well, but maybe have a down game, or Taijuan Walker in the playoffs has a down game, you could have Ranger Suarez in 3 innings come in and spell them and go 5-6 innings. So that's how you have to look at it too, because just going out, because right now, if you go out into free agency, you're going to pay a lot most likely. And especially because that's what the guys are going to want. They know you're in need. But paying a lot of money for a fifth starter, in my eyes, makes 0 sense, because come the playoffs, he's useless. You need something that's going to contribute from here into the end of your playoff run. That's how I look at it. So
to me, that only works if the bats continue to hit. So like when we were crying about the fifth starter was when the bats were cold. The bats have come alive. So that's a big factor in that fifth starter. I still don't know that the way Rangers had his ups and downs, though, but when he has had his on games as well, more on than off. And the on games have been really on. So
and he thrives in pressure moments.
I like him better at the 3 than Walker, because some of Walker's wins are, I don't want to say kind of fluky. But he's pitched well in games too, very well too. So fluky in the sense that he's given up some, or he's had runners on base, gotten out of jams. that type of thing. So, but
Listen,
yeah,
they both have a
he
sub.
definitely used Suarez as a reliever last year, and it was successful in the playoffs, no doubt about it.
And like I said, he thrives on those moments. I mean, you saw it. He was electric. You saw him in the dugout. You saw him in the bullpen. He was electric, and he's a guy made for those moments. So that's another reason you want to look at it. There's one guy that you might be like, this might be a little crazy, but we just talked about, we just played them, and the guy who actually put Bryce Harper on the DH last year was Mr. Blake Snell, could be a selling point for the San Diego Padres. If they continue to slip, they're going to become sellers most likely. They have a very high payroll. And if they're not going to be making the playoffs or have a slim chance to, you got Blake Snell, okay? 2.71 ERA. Like I said, you have Zach
in this league.
Yeah, Zach Wheeler, Nola, or Zach Snell, Nola, Suarez, and then maybe in the playoffs you move Walker into the bullpen. I don't know, but tell me that wouldn't be exciting.
Yeah,
having Blake Snell.
I like Blake Snell, and he's been the best outside of the game. Well, he still pitched okay against us. I think he only gave up 3 runs, but
yeah, until they pulled him early. That's what hurt them. I mean,
yeah, you're right. Over the past month, he's been like the best pitcher in baseball. It's about 8:52 p.m. We're coming up on the end. We're closing at 9. The attacking third's coming up. Real quick.
And the Titans finals tonight as well with Matty B.
Titans final as well. I'm going to get into the whole lineup, but Walter, real quick, that you bring up this trade that I've been hearing for Nolan Arenado, and everyone says Alec Boehm would have to be involved in that trade. Al, quickly, would you do that trade?
Probably. I mean, I love Alec Boehm. I love these. It's really hard to see putting another big contract on this team because he's still got a lot of decent time in his contract left. But if you're a team, you're going to want a young third baseman who has pop in his bat, Alec Boehm, who has been defensively proven, Alec Boehm. So yeah, you're going to lose him, but there's always good to have a mixture of homegrown guys plus these superstars. So it's a very tight rope you walk there, but yeah, probably I'd pull that trigger.
I'm not doing it. I love Boehm. I think this team, as Anthony Aide said, is kind of good as they are. I think we have a good mix of youth and age players that I don't want to go another 10 years missing the playoffs. I would rather stick with Boehm, develop him, let him get better, see what happens, and, just add a few pieces to get better. I feel like the teams that add the big stars end up, not really winning it anyway. But let's switch gears. We got 7 minutes to go. Eagles training camp is coming up. And if you want to get tickets to the game, boy, do I have the spot for you. And that's phillysportstrips.com. They have a trip October 29th. They have every single game, but we're focused right here on the October 29th trip, the ultimate trip. Bust down to Washington. Hollis Thomas, Jason Avant will be there. Go to phillysportstrips.com. Book a trip today. There's a trip up to Boston for the opener. They're having Brady Day up in Boston. A ton of Eagles fans with Philly Sports Trips go greet him in Foles jerseys. It will be beautiful. They have tailgates for every single home game. Go check out phillysportstrips.com. And if you want to watch the game at your local bar, you don't want to go anywhere, we got a spot for you there too. Dolan's Bar, 24 East Sellers Ave, Ridley Park, PA. Go to dolansbar.com. Quizzo Music's great time. Memorabilia giveaways all the time. And there always seems to be some kind of famous player in there. Hollis Thomas was in there this past day. I think Irving Fryer was in there. There's always Charlie Manuel. There's always someone good in there. So just check out dolansbar.com or just go put it in your GPS and travel, get a beer there today. Well, it's 8:55. Yeah, you can still get there today if you want.
Yeah.
So switching gears to the Eagles, got 5 minutes left. We're not going to get too in depth, but we're going to get into training camp, and there's some key dates in training camp. And then let's just do a little training camp story that we might have. It's not the way it once was in Lehigh, but key training camp dates. Camp begins in 1 week from today, July 25th. Rookies report. We have the open practice, $10 all that goes donations to a great charity towards autism through Jeffrey Lurie. $10 go to the open practice on Sunday night, August 6th. The preseason opener, August 12th. That's on the road. Then we have an Eagles-Browns joint practice, August 14th to the 17th. That's always good because it's not a game. They get to do the drills, get the pads popping, get a real good practice in where some of them fringe players you can see their success against starters. It's a good way to get it going. Eagles-Browns. Then you got the preseason home opener, August 17th. Preseason finale a week from there, August 24th, both Thursdays at 7 p.m. And then final cuts, August 29th. And then we're into the regular season on September 10th in New England against the Patriots. Al, I'll let you kick it off. There was once a time you would travel up to Lehigh. There was once a time you would go to Westchester or Widener. Those days are done. It's now, unfortunately, in my opinion, in Philly. If you got a cool Philly story up now, a recent one, cool. What's your favorite training camp story?
I mean, it was always a big thing with my grandfather and my uncles to go Westchester and check out training camp. Really got me into Eagles football. I mean, I watched on TV with them at a young age and all that stuff, but it was like kind of getting to meet and greet the guys. It was very personal. Like you're all along up at the fence, like, and remember, training camp now is set up for people to be there. Like this is the whole thing. People just showed up there. Like it was just like it wasn't a party we were invited to. You know what I mean? But people made it a party, and I think that's what was really cool about it. Kind of like what the Pandemic crew did during the pandemic with the Phillies. Like we weren't supposed to be there, but we showed up anyway and made a party out of it. And that's kind of what that was. It was like just high-fiving people you didn't even know just because guys are practicing. Like I think that's what made it awesome. Like I like the ones now because it is cool for me. I know you've done it. I've done it. Bring the young ones to it. And let them get to see things. And they made a spectacle of what it is. But it was just when we were younger, like when guys were there, you were there. You're diehard fans because you were at this thing. Any old fan can go to this one because it's a ticketed event and all that stuff. That was for diehard fans. That was for the guys that will make or break your fandom.
Yeah, definitely. And it was for the kids too, though, because I remember being a kid and like, especially when it moved to Lehigh. I was in the Westchester one once, I believe. I wish I could ask my dad. I would have to look at the dates. But I know for a fact I was in Lehigh multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
As a kid, we would go there in the morning, then hit Hershey Park, which isn't far from Lehigh. It was pretty cool. But one of my favorite training camp stories is I was partying at McGillicuddy's in Drexel Hill. And it was a Thursday night before, and they were winning. They had a raffle going around. I didn't think nothing of it. Well, I'm drinking way too much. I'm about in my mid-20s and lower 20s, probably about 22. And I, lo and behold, win a trip the next day with WIP on a bus to training camp.
That's
I called
cool.
my dad at 2 a.m. like hammered. I'm like, Dad, da-da-da-da. And he says he's going to go. I guess he calls out of work. I fall asleep. I oversleep. He comes walking into my house. What are you doing? Waking me up. Anyhow, it was the coolest day. Sean Landetta and Ike Reese were on the bus with us, drinking beers the whole way, telling us all types of stories. Got there. Andy Reid was there. You were in the camp with all the players. It was one of the best memories I've ever had with my dad. And it was kind of just like me and him, and I was older at that point, so it was even cooler memory. So that's my best training camp memory. I wish they would go back to it. I know it saves them a ton of money not doing it, but it was so cool, so awesome. You think about the TO time, it was just great. But that's 8:59. We are out of time. Before we go, let's check out this amazing EOP lineup. Monday, we got Burns of the Roundtable. Hope you listened to that last night. Tonight, we moved the EOP, which you'll see on Wednesday, to tonight, 8 o'clock, a scheduling conflict. But we got post-game Phillies fighting finals versus the Brewers. The attacking third starting right now, so stay tuned for them. Click off our screen on YouTube. Go right to theirs. Party on Broad, 6 p.m. Philly Press Box Radio at 7 p.m. Another Fightins final. Thursday, Fightins final as well. Talking Sports with Matty B. And then we got Steel Steps, Patterson and Fanatics on Saturday. That may be canceled. And then we have Sunday PM in the AM. Sunday at 9 a.m. and then all across all the time at 9 p.m. And you can always go to www.eopsports.com, catch all those shows live, or hit that subscribe button on our YouTube page right now. For Big Al Safiri, I am Freddie Burns, and we will see you next week at, I believe, our regular time, 8:30 p.m., and Joey should be back as well. Go Birds, go Phils, go Sixers, go Flyers too.